The opinions on Scoop Squad, Truth Squad are those of the hosts and the guests, and not those of WVRC Media. Copyright 2023.
Of Charleston, West Virginia. I'm Ashley Switzer, and I'm your host for the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. And we're a podcast that is hyper-focused on city and county politics and government around the great state of West Virginia. And in the studio tonight, we have Ron Hughes, my partner and executive producer. We've got Adam Knopf, the very formal ex-city council member. Did you catch that?
Formal and former.
Formal and former, but I can't say
How did
former.
you know he was going to wear a suit tonight? You typed this up
He always
in advance.
does. And he's also a contributing member of the Scoop Squad. And we've got another contributing member of the Scoop Squad tonight here, and that is Kathy Nutter. And Kathy brought her friend Ty Bullock, who I always enjoy talking to. He's an entrepreneur, and I'm just going to say a distillery guru. I probably just made that up.
He's also, leading advocate for the West Side.
That's right, for the for Elk City.
He's personally responsible for a lot of the life being breathed back into it.
And you can find us, the Scoop Squad, on your favorite podcast platform, or you can say, Alexa, play the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. So subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Share us and email us at scoopsquadwv@gmail.com with information, guest info, or to become a sponsor, because we need those.
Right. And you can also find us now on YouTube as well as Twitter.
We're getting big time.
And, of course, that thing called Facebook is still there and viable. I think we've got most of our followers there. But it's interesting that, with YouTube, although we don't have video, that's coming because we're getting the equipment pretty soon.
I'll have to brush my hair and put on makeup.
Brush your teeth?
Well, I do that anyway. Thank you very much.
Wear deodorant?
I want to give you a little preview about what's on the menu for tonight's Scoops. But first, I want to thank our sponsors, as well as a few other important people that help make this podcast happen every week. You want to take it away, Ron?
Oh, I will take it away. One of our latest sponsors is Americans for Prosperity. It's a group that is trying to improve lifestyle in the United States and in West Virginia. You'll hear their commercials, 30-second commercials throughout the podcast today, but we want to thank them. Also, Integrity Insurance. Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance is on 16 Capitol Street with his staff and crew. They offer auto, home, life, business insurance, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. This is pet insurance that is like health insurance. And although he does health insurance for humans, he does it for pets as well, dogs and cats. That could cover any special foods you have to have, any procedures, illnesses, surgeries, or medications. So you can catch Integrity Insurance at iigwv.com. Also, by Eggplant on Bridge Road. They carry the best tote bag collections to be found in Charleston, along with their baby section. And I found some of the great personal care items by Jack Black, which is a men's grooming line. And, if you don't want stuff that's real smelly but is kind of natural, Jack Black grooming products.
It's good stuff. I also messed up the solid cologne. I couldn't figure out how to say it or what it was, but it's a solid cologne in a little tin case that smells fabulous.
And smelled it.
Yeah, it's
nice.
I've never seen anything like it. It's a super cool gift if you need one.
Well,
for your hubs.
If you go in, you'll find out what it is. Just ask for the cologne that Ashley likes. For men or something like that. And, she won't think you're weird if you ask that. Also by T Graphics and owner Claudette Hudson for all your screen printing, embroidery, advertising specialties over on Buchanan Street on the west side. You catch them at tgraphics.com, 345-4816. Also by Call Ditto Marketing.
Okay.
And Call Ditto Marketing is a
What is Call Ditto Marketing?
Agency. They are a digital marketing agency that specializes in being an addition to your marketing team. So if you need a fresh set of eyes on your marketing, call Amy Ditto, who I used to work with, and she's
great. What a great name.
That's actually her name.
I love it.
304-300-7368. That's 300-7368. She understands the importance of professionalism, brand awareness, communication, and attention to detail. Learn more at callditto.com or call call, ditto today at 304-300-7368.
Right.
Now, an example, I think Danny Jones' website is still up because even though he's out of business, he left his website up. She designed that.
Oh, cool.
And you can
Check
get
it
an
out.
example of her work right there.
Yeah.
So I'm finished shilling for our commercial
All right, so I
enterprises.
want to bring up Akers Law Offices because J.B. Akers is one of our contributing members to this podcast, and he is literally the smartest person that I know besides Adam.
Well, thanks a lot.
And the best, well, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to piss you
I've got
guys
the
off.
text
He's just
here
smart.
That say you said I was the smartest.
Well,
Never
okay,
mind.
maybe I should say he is the smartest attorney in town and
Oh,
the
that's
best
good.
attorney in town. And my daughter, who is also an attorney, she would not be mad at me for saying that because, sorry, Ty, I insulted you too. But she would agree with me as well. And I'm just going to say that I think Charleston, West Virginia missed the boat on having JB serve as our mayor and choosing Amy Goodwin instead. So that's
Twice.
just, 2 times. Well, he didn't run the second time.
I know, but
But if we had
still do
voted for him the first time, we wouldn't be in this mess. All right, so on to what we're going to talk about. We have a very full scoop. But first, I want to bring on our guest, Kathy Hess.
Kraus.
Kathy Hess Kraus.
Kathy Hess
right?
Kraus.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, she also has a niece, Sierra Hess, who is friends of mine on Facebook, too. And
Now, Kathy, you serve in the legislature.
she is beautiful.
You serve in the legislature. Tell us who you serve and who you represent.
I represent
Get a little
part.
closer.
Sorry about that. I represent part of Putnam County, so I have the whole north side of the river, everything from Buffalo down through Nitro, and then I come across onto the south side of the river and take in a part of Scott Depot.
Okay. And you have served in the legislature for how many years now?
I was appointed December of 21, so I served the remaining term of the previous delegate for the 22 session.
Okay.
I was elected in 22 to serve the 23-24 and running again, so hopefully I'll be serving the 25-26 session also.
So why do you run?
Why do I run? I absolutely, and maybe this is a sad thing, I don't know. I absolutely love it down at the Capitol. I love being able to help people across the whole state, including my own community. I love being able to serve. I just love everything about it. The making the laws, the committee meetings, sitting through them, as boring as it sounds at times.
It's fascinating for you,
it.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I enjoy it. And I love going through and finding out the things that need fixed in our system with our laws.
I think
or
some of these
things that
politicians
need
need
changed.
fixed, but that's a different story.
I'm not one of those.
No,
You like to fix things,
said
don't
some of
you?
these.
So, what are your passions? What are you like to focus on in the legislature?
I've seemed to have focused on a little bit of everything, but I went in really, focusing on some education issues, school choice issues, health freedom type issues, Second Amendment, which West Virginia is wonderful on.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
Yeah, that one's the easy one. The bills come up and everybody's for them, so those are the easy
Even
ones.
the people that are against them are for
For
them.
them.
Because they want to get elected.
Exactly.
But charter schools, that was kind of a hot button for you, wasn't it? That was, that took a while to get accomplished.
Yes,
if I
and that
remember
was
right.
before I came
Before you
in.
got there.
Yeah, that was before I got there.
But that's something I think you were in support of, were you not?
I'm in support of any option
Gives you a choice.
that gives a choice, whether it's charter. We now have micro schools and learning pods. We have the Hope Scholarship, which helps people with homeschooling or private school. We've got private and parochial schools. Any other options out there? I think there's something called cottage schools. Don't ask me what that is exactly. I don't know. But any option that allows for kids to grow and learn how they learn best. That's where my passion.
And
one
you
of my
had
passions.
children in both the public schools and you also homeschooled children. Is that correct?
My 3 older boys all graduated from Buffalo High School. And
So why
they-
did you choose to homeschool your other 2 children when you had 3 that went through the public school system?
There was always issues, even with the older 3, with the public school system. It came to an end when I had, my 3rd son was in his senior year. My 4th son was in his kindergarten year. And my daughter was in her preschool year. And I caught on audio tape the teacher and the aide verbally abusing the children. I caught the first 3 weeks of school.
How did you do that?
In kindergarten, I sent a little voice recorder on my son when he went to school.
Now, what prompted that? What made you?
He had been in the school for preschool and had absolutely no problems. So he went to kindergarten, started kindergarten with in the same school and everything. And his first day when he came home from school, he was a crying hot mess.
Which school was that?
It was Buffalo Elementary School.
Now, isn't that where a school where a kindergarten the only reason I remember the news story was because it was my daughter's kindergarten teacher that had moved from her school to Buffalo. And
She had
this may have been 10
hopped several
years
schools.
ago.
Yeah.
She was prosecuted, was that right, or fired?
That was another issue.
Okay.
Though they gave her and the aide a year's paid vacation.
Okay.
And then
What?
put them back. They gave them, finally, after almost that year, they gave them a 30-day suspension with no pay. They fought that. I believe they both got the money back for that 30-day that they got no pay for. And then they turned around and put them back in the school system. So when my son started his first day of first grade, they had locked down the school. They weren't allowing parents in. They weren't telling anybody anything. And
What kinds of things did you hear on those recordings?
They were telling the kids that they were worthless. They were never going to amount. These are kindergartners, I remind you, that they were never going to amount to anything, that they needed to go back to preschool. They needed to wear some diapers.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, they were just, it was verbal abuse from the time they walked in to the time they
I'm
left.
a kindergarten teacher, and my heart is breaking right now. And a mother.
I sent a note in because I can't remember. I think my son was he wasn't eating his lunch or something. So I sent a very innocent note in. I said, is there anything going on at lunchtime? Do I need to change something? What's going on? And what I heard on the recorder that day was, what are you going home telling your mom? Why are you doing that? You need to stop that. And I got that for 3 weeks, because I knew the school system. I knew if you gave them anything, it would be, oh, no, that was just a bad day.
Sure.
So I got it with the teacher and the aide together. I got it, the teacher alone, the aide alone, both of them with substitutes, everything. I tried to have my son move to another class. The principal wouldn't do it. I tried to let them know that things were going on. Principal wouldn't
Did they hear the
listen about it.
recordings?
After the 3 weeks, I made copies and handed them to every single parent
In
that
the
had
class?
in the class. I gave one to the principal, and I gave them to the Board of Education. And because I knew how things would be swept under a rug, I gave them to the media. And
Did the media report on it?
they did.
Okay.
They did. Like I said, they removed the teacher and the aide. Basically gave them a year's paid vacation. They had moved the aide to another school, and then when that school found out she was there, they spoke up and got rid of her. And finally, the aide and the teacher got it, like I said, about a year's paid vacation. Finally went to court and everything. Well, their version of court.
Right.
And they gave them a 30-day no-pay suspension, which they both fought, got their money back. I'm most positive on that one, and gave them their jobs back and put them right back in the school.
Whew.
So that night when I picked my son up from kindergarten or from first grade, his first day, I went home and I gave my husband 3 choices, and he chose homeschooling.
Well, I hate to think what the others were.
Well,
Yeah, what were
I
the other
gave
two?
him the choice of we could homeschool. I would figure it out. It wouldn't be that hard. I would figure it all out. Or we could do private schooling. I'd go get a couple jobs and pay for it somehow for both the 2 younger kids. Or 3,
He'd be living in the Motel
he could get off work early, pick the kids up because I wouldn't be home because I was going to school and kicking butt, and we were all either going to jail or the hospital. I wasn't putting up with it anymore. And so
Spoken like a true mama bear.
he was very
She is a
smart.
mama bear.
Yeah.
I am a bad one sometimes, and I'm bad in a good way.
Yes. I feel
but
that.
he chose wisely. And
That's why he's still living today.
exactly. And he said, I guess homeschool's the right answer. And I looked at him. I said, I don't care what answer you pick. I just need one. I said,
Yeah.
I'm good with all of them. So at that time, when you began homeschooling, you were supposed to give, I think it was a 10-day notice. So I filled out our notice of intent, found a couple friends at homeschool, figured out what I needed to do, went to see the superintendent the next morning, and it was Chuck Hatfield, and he had the lady who was over, I think, all the elementary schools in with him. And I told him, I was like, I gave my husband 3 choices last night. Now you get 2. I said, so I'm making it easier on you. I said, 1, you can sign this paper and let me go and my child go, and we'll begin homeschooling today. I said, or 2, you can not sign it, make me wait the 10 days. Just understand that with the next 10 days, you get not only my son, but you continue to get me.
Right.
He patted me on the shoulder real quick, said, have a good time homeschooling, Miss Krause. Signed that paper real fast and handed it back to me. So after he did that, I said, smart decision on your part, too. I said, you and my husband are really making good choices.
Neither
I'm
one
proud
of you
of
are in
you.
the doghouse now.
Yeah. I said, now just understand one thing. Any child and any parent who wants to homeschool in Putnam County, they will have my finger on them. I will help them any way, shape, or form, and I will make sure people know how to homeschool and how to begin the process. And I can proudly say I took that from Putnam County to surrounding counties to across the whole state of West Virginia, and became a huge advocate for fighting for parents for their homeschooling rights and now school choice rights on what works best for their child.
And what was it, the organization that you said that you were a president of before
I was
you were?
president of West Virginia Home Educators.
Okay.
Do you know how many members are in that now? Or?
I'm not sure how many members. There were several hundred across the state.
Wow.
And understand, when I first came into homeschooling, homeschoolers were probably at that time around 9 or 10,000. Back in 15, 16, we beat out private schoolers. We passed them up. We became about 11,000 strong, and private school was a little over 10,000. After the teacher strikes, our numbers moved up, and I figured we were right around 13,000, although the school system
Yeah, there was a
kinda
mass
quit.
exit after that, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. And the school system quit taking count of our numbers, or at least keeping them for us so we would have. And so I figured we were right around 13,000. And then now the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
I was so busy. I figured we were somewhere in the mid-20s at that time.
You weren't quite in the House of Delegates.
I was
yet.
not in the House of Delegates at that time, but I was president of West Virginia Home Educators. I run the largest Facebook support group. We have over 11,000 members on it now for homeschooling in West Virginia. So I was figuring during the pandemic, we were right around maybe 25,000. Well, the census ended up taking count, and they made sure to ask several times, are you homeschooling, not virtual school, not this remote school, everything. It ended up that we were between mid-40s to mid-50,000.
Wow.
Yes. Now, back during this past session, I did get our numbers, and I knew many people went back to school and everything, and we were at, I think, almost 25,000. And now they've just approved a little over 5,000 on Hope Scholarship. I'd say the majority of those will go to homeschooling. Some will go to private school, but a good majority will go to homeschooling.
Was that a tough fight? It seems like I remember there seemed to be a couple of glitches when Hope
Scholarship, yeah, it went to court and everything. It came out of the court system and prevailed.
Did the teachers union take it to court, or was it somebody?
It was families.
Some
It was parents.
Yeah. I'm sure pushed by the teachers unions.
I'm sure.
But it prevailed. I don't know, maybe it was November, I think, of last year.
Yeah, I think
so
you're right.
kids had already started in
Yes.
school and stuff.
Yes.
Luckily, those that had went to private schools had many of them had gotten scholarships,
approved. Right.
kind of thing. So when the money came in, finally, I believe in January, they were able to start funding the private schools that were approved, and the children had picked to go there, and then the homeschoolers were able to start getting their materials that they needed. And now with this next round, I think it was a little over 5,000 that was approved, and there's still people being approved on an oncoming basis.
Right.
Wow.
So I would figure by the end of this school year, I'm going to guesstimate homeschooling is going to be closer to 30,000.
Yeah.
And then you've got micro schools and learning pods, which are another form of homeschooling.
Right.
That some of those will go into also.
Are you on the House Education Committee?
I am not.
Why not?
I don't know. It was my first choice, and I was not given
I was
House
just going to
education.
say, you're an advocate for that.
Yeah.
Now we know there's an education committee in the House, but it seems like they need to be, with those kind of numbers, there needs to be a representative of, of the homeschooling and what you call microschooling and so forth.
Completely agree.
So tell us about some legislation that you're most proud of or that you championed this last session.
This last session, I championed the bill. It's 2820, and it was the school sports bill. So we had already passed that homeschoolers could participate in school sports if they met certain qualifications. They had to take so many classes at the school or with the school system. They had to do testing, different things like that, and of course meet all the other requirements, vaccinations. They had to try out. They had to get on the team. Everything that every other kid in the public school had to do, they had to do also on top of
making it extremely difficult.
It was burdensome, and it was also many of the homeschooling parents didn't want to have their child take a public school class.
Sure.
So this bill that I introduced, it opened it up for homeschoolers, micro schools, learning pods, because micro schools, learning pod, and Hope Scholarship recipients, all of those are all of them are different exemptions. So the only exemption the previous bill covered was exemption C, which is homeschoolers.
Okay.
So I added in exemption M, which is Hope Scholarship, private and homeschool. I opened up exemption N, which was the micro schools and learning pods. And with that, it also opened up exemption K, which was private and parochial schools. One of the caveats that was put in there in education was that if the private or parochial school offered the sport, the child couldn't go to the public school to play it. And then, so that passed out. It passed out pretty overwhelmingly in the House. We got and went to the Senate. Over in the Senate, they put in a transfer part that allowed for kids to transfer one time during high school and not have to set out a year. So all of it ended up passing. The House concurred with everything, and we now have it so our kids can play. They don't have to take classes, whether the child's in public, charter, private, micro, learning pods, homeschooling, however the child is educated.
Wow.
It's just
and that's what it should be.
Kids
let the kid play.
Let the kids play. And as I said on the House floor, I have no dog in this fight. My kids don't play sports. They're not interested in sports. But let the kids play.
Yeah, there's
Just
a lot of kids
let
that
them
are.
play.
Hey, I got to ask you this before you go. So Doug Scaff announced today that he was stepping down as minority leader
For the Democratic Party.
for the Democratic Party. What are you have any thoughts on that?
I have only seen...
I feel like it's starting to distance himself from this party. This might be the first step.
Yeah, I have only seen the headline. I haven't went and read any of the articles. I've been in appointments all day long.
Yeah.
So all I know is he stepped down as minority leader. And, there's always rumors around which ones are true and which ones aren't. Who knows? But there may be more
You think he'll switch
surprises.
parties?
That's one of the possible
You think he'll
rumors.
come
I don't
over to the
know.
winning team?
Yeah.
Everybody should. But then again, if you come to the winning team, daggone it, you need to go with the winning platform.
Yeah, you gotta.
Amen.
You can't
sis.
bring in the
you gotta
losing
walk
platform.
You gotta walk the walk.
Walk the walk,
Yeah.
talk the
Not just
talk.
talk the talk.
That's
That's right.
right. You
I
got to
agree.
do it all.
So, Kathy, where can people find you, and where can people find that great homeschooling organization if they have questions? And is that something that's a fee based or
No, it's
okay?
completely free. And I'm found very easily. You can find me on. It's no longer Twitter. I was gone all last week, and I come back, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's an X?
I just consider myself an X-Men.
I was like, what do we do now? We don't tweet. Do we explain, or what do we do? But anyway, you can find me. Kathy Hess Krause will find me just about everywhere.
Okay.
It'll find me on X/Twitter. It'll find me on Instagram. It will find me on Facebook. I have a couple accounts on Facebook. I've got my personal page, which is Kathy Hess Krause. I've got my campaign page, and what I post a lot on about a little bit of everything is Kathy Hess Krause for WV. I've got my delegate, Kathy Hess Krause, on there. I can be reached on all of those very easily.
You're so well spread out. I'm going to ask you to share this podcast with all your 25,000
please. That would be great.
followers.
And do you have any surprise? I mean, you have anything on the agenda for next legislative session? One thing that you want to get done?
Next session, like January session, I've got a list of things.
I bet you do.
I keep a list going on my phone. Anytime somebody comes to me, they're like, okay, we need to fix this, or we need to fix that. But I do have some things. I'm waiting to see how the rules come out about my sports bill.
Okay.
How the West Virginia SSAC,
how they write the rules.
Interesting. And once they write those, I'll see if I need to go in and clarify anything.
That's right.
I've told them this is what I've meant.
Yeah.
This is what I said.
And I'll be watching.
And I will be watching.
Well, I have
no problem going in and changing things even more.
Well, you were a very strong advocate for your kids, and you're a strong advocate for the state of West Virginia, I can tell.
Thank you. And for those who want to find the homeschooling group, you'll laugh at this, it's the Unsocialized Homeschoolers of West Virginia.
Okay.
And I named it that, I don't know, probably 12 years ago, I think I started the group. And like I said, we're about 11,000 now. And I started it out because everybody kept saying, oh, your kids are just going to be so unsocialized. Well, we had to quit socializing just so we could do schoolwork.
Right.
Because there was just so much out there. And and the families kept putting things together and offering things. So I figured, okay, where's the place? We need to be able to keep all this together.
Kids don't socialize in person anymore. It's all on,
for real.
On media.
I don't know.
But I feel like homeschoolers, you find each other.
Yes.
And you make more of an effort to get with people.
Exactly.
That's just what I think.
Yeah. And during the pandemic, all the proms were canceled.
Right.
Do you know where homeschoolers had a prom at? There was 150 homeschoolers on my farm.
Oh, merciful heavens!
That's
awesome.
So we had a homeschool prom social
I love that.
On my
that
farm.
Didn't get canceled.
That did not. Well, the reason it was on my farm was because it kept getting canceled at the other locations.
Right.
We said, forget this.
Yeah,
we're not worried about COVID.
You can handle it.
We're doing it here. So we.
Well, so it seems like you're solutions oriented.
I try to be, and I tell parents who homeschool, and I mean, even with Hope Scholarship and micros and learning pods, build it and they will come.
That's right.
I mean, if there's something, because parents will come to me, oh, is this offered anywhere?
Yeah.
Not that I know of, but tell you what, you want to do it, put it together, do it, build it, and other people will join in.
Hey, Kathy, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. I hope you'll come back. We'll keep up with you on when the legislative session rolls around, and even before then.
Looks like probably this week will be
all right.
A little mini session.
All right. Thanks so much, Kathy.
And excitement.
Yes, all kinds of excitement.
And we will be back with Scoop 2 in a second. Scoop Squad Truth Squad is brought to you in part by T Graphics on Charleston's west side. For 38 years, this Charleston-based business has provided in-house professional screen printing, commercial-grade heat transfers, very important to set us apart from the cricket world, and embroidery, promotional products, advertising, specialties, distribution, serving clients locally, regionally, and nationally, superior service, quality goods, and on-time delivery. Call 304-345-4816 or go to tgraphics.com. That's teegraphics.com. And by Quinn Computers. With many of us working from home, connectivity is more important than ever. Let Quinn Computers in Spring Hill take care of all your computer challenges. computer and laptop service, all brands, network troubleshooting and repair, wireless network, VPN installation and support, security and firewall installation and support, backup and recovery service, remote systems administration. www.quinnTechnology.com. That's www.QUINNTechnology.com.
You're listening to the Scoop Squad Truth Squad, brought to you in part by Quinn Computers in Spring Hill and by Eggplant on Bridge Road.
Reckless big government policies are putting the American dream out of reach. We all know Washington is broken, but it doesn't have to be. Senator Joe Manchin could be part of the solution if he stood up for West Virginia values. Instead, he voted with Joe Biden on the Inflation Reduction Act, which led to higher taxes, trillions in new spending, and tens of thousands of new IRS agents. Tell Joe Manchin, Mountaineers want real, common sense solutions. To learn more, visit prosperityispossible.com. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
You're listening to Squad Truth Pod, a weekly podcast brought to you in part by Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, offering auto, home, life, business insurance with workers' compensation also, as well as pet insurance, which is health insurance for your dogs and cats, covering many special foods, illnesses, surgeries, medications, and they can be found at 16 Capitol Street, 346-9181. Catch them at iigwv.com. Also by Eggplant on Bridge Road, Anything But Ordinary. T-Graphics on the west side, tgraphics.com. By Call Ditto Marketing, keep your brand moving, callditto.com. And also by Americans for Prosperity.
And you're back. We're back. You're back,
back.
And we're back for Scoop 2 of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. This little segment is going to be dedicated to, we've got Ty Bullock in the studio, and he's going to come on here in a few minutes, but we're going to go over just a few of the meetings that we all attended over the last week, and also kind of give you a little bit of an update on the Chief Hunt situation, the Chief Tyke Hunt, and the situation with Jenny Harless, and the FOIA that the Scoop Squad worked together to turn in. We actually got an answer to that FOIA. Well, not really.
A response.
A response, let's say.
Answers, but a
No
response.
answers, but we did get some responses. But first, let's talk about the Women's Health Center public meeting that was held regarding the needle exchange program that the Women's Health Center wants to bring back into the city. I was actually at the Kanawha County Republican Executive Committee meeting last night, where I got voted in as a member. Like, now I'm a member of it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I think
It
somebody
was
else.
kind of a
got-
big deal. Morgan, my daughter, is now an associate member because we're in the same district. So one of us has to be a voting member, which I said, you can't vote. I'm the voter. And then she's the associate member or whatever. But yeah, and it was quite, I wasn't expecting that. They asked me a lot of questions. I had to tell why I wanted to be a part of the committee. And it was a fiery meeting. But what I liked about it was that there was some disagreements, but everybody was pretty, forceful. They had their opinions, they had their points that they wanted to make, but it was pretty respectful, and people came around, and nobody walked out, or they proceeded. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to have these hard conversations and not get offended, so that we can come to a solution for the good of the party. And that's what I saw.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be. And generally that's
Yeah.
how it's done with groups on the right. But, groups on the left don't
That didn't
necessarily-
happen.
Doesn't always go like that. And, I'm alluding to what happened, at the public meeing. But, that's my experience for a lot of different things.
That was a pretty noisy meeting from the clips I've seen.
Well, the first 95% of it went really well. So everyone, first of all, I don't know how long we're getting into this, but it was an overflow crowd.
Kind of go into the topic of why they were meeting, discuss the needles. And
Well, they have to meet because they have to satisfy requirements, federal or state requirements and
Right.
grant
And,
requirements.
city
And city,
and
yes.
county.
Public meeting.
So it's kind of a check the box kind of thing.
Right.
Yep. So the Women's Health Center needed a public meeting where people could come out and, express their opinions about their program. And, it has to be advertised within, a certain amount of blocks. But I was surprised to hear that the city's planning department doesn't handle that. The city's planning department is the ones, that go out and say, put signs that say this is going to be rezoned.
Right.
Have you ever seen one of those signs?
Yes.
The planning department has that. But in terms of notifying residents and businesses within the 2-block radius, the planning department told me that they didn't do that. So that was actually the responsibility of the Women's Health Center
Oh,
to go
interesting.
out and do that. So,
Okay.
they have to have this public meeting. It has to be advertised so many days in advance,
Yeah.
within 2 blocks. I think it was, and the turnout was really good. In fact, the turnout was so good that it was in the Goodwill Prosperity Center's main meeting room, and then there was an overflow, like in the lobby,
Yeah.
where people were just, listening via sound system.
Right. It was packed. What would you say?
Yeah, and
Could you eyeball like the pros and the fors and against? Like, what would you say the
Oh,
percentage?
well, there was
would be?
actually, I would say it was easy to determine that there were more supporters.
Yeah, and which
there.
we would expect, I would think.
Yeah.
Now, would you say that the
expected
supporters?
because they got the word out really well.
Right. They do.
that-
That's one thing I told the Kanawha County Republican Committee last night. I was like, these Democrats, they are well organized, and they work. They travel in groups, right? Like very large groups, and they're
And
very loud.
But
Didn't. But most of them didn't live around. Would you say
first
that?
of all, the supporters, in my analysis of this, as someone that came in to speak against it,
Right.
my analysis of the supporters is that they fell into 1 or 2 main camps, and both of those camps have some kind of relation to this needle distribution,
Yes.
industry.
Well, the Women's Health Center was not shy about saying at their opening meeting, which you and I were at, that they cannot do abortions any longer. So they needed another revenue stream. And this was the natural.
And a lot of the proponents came out and said, I'm a professor, I do this, or, my job is dependent,
Right.
on harm reduction services, and, it needs an expansion.
Wow.
There were very few people in my memory of it that said, I live, near the Women's Health Center,
Yeah.
and we need these services. I mean, the majority of
The
people.
people that lived there were
speaking-
saying, we do not want this. We do not need this.
Yeah.
The people that lived there in that area. Yeah. Yeah. Well, then at the end of the meeting, let's see if I can just play it. Hold on.
Thanks to her. Order. Thanks to her. Order. Don't mislead me. Shut up. You shut up. All right. Thank you all.
Sorry, I had to get that in there. So if you didn't hear that, he's saying thanks to her, because the Women's Health Center director shouted down a man that was at the podium trying to give some statistics, said that's not true, and then another gentleman said this is how the Women's Health Center operates, and then that kind of sparked a. And then someone said, then Miles Carey tried to shut down the meeting, say, hey, thanks for coming, everyone. We've got to go. And then the gentleman in the crowd saying, thanks to her. And then you hear this very gruff voice say, you misgendered me. And then another person in the crowd started screaming about misgendering and telling people to shut up. It was wild.
Kind of unexpected
Yeah.
end, very abrupt.
Right, because it was pretty well. It was.
Yeah, up until
people
that
were
point,
respectful for the
up
most
until
part.
That point, and I just want to talk about the comments that got interrupted.
Yeah,
I mean, first of all, it was pretty easy to tell, and I hate to stereotype people, but it was pretty easy to tell just by looking who was going to support it and who was going to
Sure.
speak against it. If you
Yes.
were wearing business casual or more
Right.
formal, you spoke against it, and that was 100% of the time. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that only people that spoke against it, were dressed up, but if you dressed up, you spoke against it. So, this gentleman comes up, I don't know who he is, but he's an older guy, had on khakis and a dress shirt, and I was like, oh, well, this guy's obviously going to
speak against it.
based on the history, because we're 30 people deep into this, and
Right.
most people have, been respectful. And he made a comment that was so innocuous or benign, I don't even remember it. I mean, I
Right.
was paying attention. I think he just stated what he thought were facts, and
Right.
I mean, I don't remember what they were. So, assuming
Right.
he was right, or he definitely thought he was right. And then out of nowhere, someone from the Women's Health Center yelled him down.
Yeah, and that
so
sparked.
that was,
yeah.
crazy to me.
Crazy.
They had been up there for at least 30 people. They got to open the meeting with, their explanation of why they wanted to do this program, and sat there quietly for the whole time. And then this guy is giving out, what I thought were facts. I don't know whether they're true or not because I don't remember what they were, but he's giving out facts. And then out of nowhere, she starts shouting them down.
Right.
Because he misgendered somebody?
No. The initial thing was over a fact that was, half of people or twice the amount of people. I mean, it was just some normal kind of sounding fact that most
and it
people had given
deteriorated from there.
Yeah.
And then Miles was hilarious. It was so funny. Okay,
and then,
everybody,
and
meeting's
then
over.
Out of nowhere, the next thing I know, someone is standing up literally like an internet meeting.
Battle
like
cry
screaming,
almost.
Like,
screaming.
ringing at the top of her lungs, and it worked. It shut down, the debate, which to me, was very unfortunate. Most people there had been respectful, and it
probably would have continued. I would think that there were probably more people that wanted to talk.
The city clerk, Miles Carey, who was the moderator for the meeting, grabbed the mic as soon as all the yelling started happening. It's like, we're done. This concludes the meeting. And and the guy, the gentleman that was speaking, did get to finish, but he read through his remarks so
super fast,
as to
couldn't tell.
Have no effect.
Right.
I think on anyone in the room.
Well, at the committee meeting last night, they were they asked me about that. They said, what do you think about the Women's Health Center? Do you think that City Council will vote for it? And I said, I think City Council is going to vote for it. Except for I know one who won't vote for it, and that's Shannon Snodgrass, which brings me to my next point. So Shannon Snodgrass, let's just tell everybody that Shannon, she is going to be on Dave Allen tomorrow, and of course when this podcast comes out, she will have already been on there. But I have to grovel a little bit to Shannon and apologize, and I have done a lot of what would you say, just sucking up this week, just like begging for her forgiveness, because last week during the podcast, we were talking about, we were shaming council for...
Well, as a group, not individuals.
Yes, as a whole. We did not shame individuals. We were shaming council as a whole for supporting or not voting for an independent investigation of Chief Hunt and what happened with the situation with Jenny Harless. And I made the critical error of not separating Shannon, because Shannon, I honestly, I just don't, when I think of city council, I really don't put Shannon in that, like, I just feel like she's the Lone Ranger.
She's a Democrat.
She's a Democrat.
And
she's
like
smart. I could say JB is the smartest attorney, the best attorney, and Shannon is one of the smartest people I know. And she's a bulldog, and she fights for what's unpopular, but she fights for what's right.
Yeah, she fights what's right for constituents, and it's an easy trap to fall into. And I mean, I can tell you as a city council member in somewhat of a similar situation during my term, but I would say not as good as Shannon. I'm serious about it when I say Shannon Snodgrass has been the best member of council.
She has.
The past few terms. That includes myself. She now, is the lone voice. So, when you say city council, it's hard to say, 25-1.
Right.
About people, but I think you always need to make that.
We have to make that distinction.
She's always doing,
what's right.
What's right, not what's going to be popular, not what's going to confer favors,
right?
For anyone else in town or the mayor's office or anything like that. She's going to do what she feels.
I got to tell a quick
right.
story, because the first time I went to city council or appeared on city council was on Zoom, and I was speaking against the needle exchange. Actually, ironically enough. But everybody was on their little Zoom boxes or whatever. And Shannon was trying so hard to get these points in, because Shannon knows her stuff. And the mayor cut her off. And I see Shannon's box, and she's like, son of a... It was like... And I'm like, oh my word, I got to meet this girl, because she was fired up. And right before, I think she said the B word, and somebody cut her off right before she could finish it. But and so we've been good friends ever since. And she's got to, we got to give her all the credit, because we tease each other all the time. Like, watching this city administration is a full-time job. And I can't tell you the number of times I've texted, I want to jump off a bridge. Like, I just want to jump off a bridge and end this all because it's just so maddening.
Transparency is not their forte.
It's not.
City
And
Hall.
accountability. And, that's what she fights for. She fights for transparency and accountability. And when you do that and people are not transparent and don't want to be accountable, man, do they push back. They lie, they cheat, it's terrible.
Speaking of lack of accountability, what was in that FOIA?
Okay, so in the FOIA, so
Reply.
super quick. It's not super quick. I just want to. We've sent a FOIA a list of about 20 items, and one I'll go down. Just the first one is.
We can publish this on.
Yeah,
on
I'll
the Facebook
publish it, and
page.
I'll see if I can link to the documents. I don't know how to do that yet. Maybe Kathy knows a way to do that, but I can certainly put this response on the Facebook. We requested that all records evidencing the suspension of Chief James Tyke Hunt, as described by him in recent media reports, and then that's what we asked for. Attached to this email, you will find payroll documents containing responsive information to your request. Other responsive records are exempt from disclosure pursuant to the attorney-client privilege in West Virginia Code 29B, which exempts from disclosure. So, Kevin, Attorney Baker used this attorney-client privilege a lot here. Does that even apply, Adam?
If he's not his client.
Yeah,
I thought that was
something
weird.
I've always had an issue of contention.
He's
with,
the city attorney.
Yeah, he's the
How-
city attorney. He's not a
The
private
city is
attorney
his
for
client.
anyone. Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, and he did that a lot. And then one other thing that was interesting to me was, let me see here. Well, a lot of this also said the city has no responsive documents, so they didn't send emails. They just said they didn't have documents. Now, I did notice that going through, I'm not an expert at all. And like when I tell you this is a full-time job, I'm not lying. It's a full-time job. But what I did notice was that on the time cards, we got the time cards, we got the payroll information that we asked for. I didn't see anywhere on Chief Hunt's time card that he was off payroll.
Yeah, that to me, that's the most shocking part.
Yeah,
The result
because
of the FOIA is that
they
has
said he got a
publicly
3-day
that
suspension.
He has said that was suspended for 3 days.
Right.
But there's no evidence of that.
No, his time card does not show that. Now his payroll does show that in July his pay was about $1,400 less than his pay in June, which would suggest some sort of withholding. But again, his time card and his pay don't match up. And then I think, well, if they didn't take him, or if they did take him off the payroll, which it doesn't show that they did on his time cards, wouldn't they have to notify the retirement board, like if he was off the payroll? Because does that make sense to you?
It may go by the amount of pay. If he's getting less pay, then he's getting less.
But don't your days of service, don't those count?
I guess with city, with public service, probably would.
You
go
would
by
think.
Days.
Yeah, the
But-
days.
yeah.
It does factor into that. But
Yeah.
without knowing any details about the suspension itself, which we've not been able to get,
Right.
we don't know.
We still don't have
what's
answers.
Suspended. We don't know what's suspended
No.
with pay.
Well, it looks like
what it
he's-
affect. I just don't have answers for that because the city's not providing them.
He's getting paid every 2 weeks.
Right.
So if his check was 44.52.62, and we divide that by 14,
Yeah.
that would be, or divided by 10. 10 working days.
Yeah.
It'd be 445.20 a day times 3 is 13. Yeah, there's the number.
Yeah.
1336.93.
But so there's discrepancies. There's more
So, yeah,
questions
he
than
didn't get paid
answers.
those 3 days apparently, but
Well, and then on that note, there was no communication apparently regarding Chief Hunt's suspension, even to the second in command. So the second in command.
Yeah, I've heard the police department did not know that
No.
their chief was off duty for 3 days.
right.
No.
And his second in command did not know that he was technically in charge.
In charge, right? And the attorney-client confidentiality thing just burns me up, because how does that even make sense?
That doesn't
And
make
if
sense.
and if you are his attorney, Mr. Baker, why did you go on and start talking about it? Like if it was privileged information, once you start talking about it on statewide radio and local radio, then why don't you talk about all of it? Like you can't just say,
He's picking and choosing.
he's picking and choosing what he's talking about.
Did you ask JB?
JB's going to be on next week.
Okay, so we'll get into that a little bit more. Maybe we'll save our gunpowder for that.
Yes. And, I forgot. Guys, listen, if you need attorney services, call JB at Acres Law Offices. I think I even wrote
We
down
just kind of segue right into an ad for an attorney.
304-720-1422 and tell him that the Scoop Squad sent you, which he is a part of.
And he's there on the corner of Courier and Capitol Street.
He's on Capitol Street. Yep.
Do we have time to talk about one more issue
Yep.
related to this?
Yep.
Because it is about the city government and where it's going, and Councilmember Snodgrass
Yes.
herself. At the previous city council meeting, I was floored. I was shocked
Yeah.
by something that had happened at the end of that meeting. Council President Becky Sepperly, outlined what she wants to do as new procedures
Yes.
for how council members should field, issues or complaints
Yeah.
about the city.
Tell us about that super fast.
Yeah, she wants everyone. If a council member gets a complaint, immediately give it over to the mayor's office. and
No, it
they'll
doesn't even
resolve
go
it.
through the council.
Yeah,
It goes
doesn't
straight
even-
to the mayor's office.
She said, if you get a complaint, give it over to the mayor's office, and they'll handle it.
Yeah.
So basically, there isn't anything else she could do to absolve herself of
From-
any
from
responsibility.
need and responsibility.
And it's not just these issues, the new procedure. I mean, look at the immediate previous history. She voted to give away the authority for the new Capitol Sports Center complex.
Yes.
They've given that over to people that have no affiliation with local government. They can, as long as they're not going to raise taxes, they can go off and do whatever they want. What's scheduled, what's shaping up to be the biggest economic development project, of the term, if not the generation.
Right.
And even before that, there's other things that she's done where she's literally tried to write council off, whether it's
Yeah.
city council committees that don't ever meet.
Right.
She's
I
not
was stunned in
sticking
one
up
of
for 'em.
the one meeting, the one financial meeting. I forget what is that called?
The
Finance meeting
committee.
that I went to. I was shocked at how much she admitted that she didn't know about the process, and now she just doesn't want to hear from her constituents. I guess let's just give it to the mayor.
Well, that's interesting because Becky separately was formerly known as Becky Kane, who was over the League of Women Voters
Yes.
nationally as well as statewide
Right.
in the I think late 70s, 80s. I'm not sure how far into the 80s or
Yeah.
90s, but she was over the League of Women Voters. You would think she would know her civics and her government.
Well,
She doesn't.
The reason why I wanted to bring that up and what that has to do with Councilmember Snodgrass is that, Councilmember Snodgrass was also nominated to be president
Yes,
of
she
City
was.
Council back at the beginning of the term.
Right.
And I think she only got 9 votes on that. And, I had to go back in the record to see who they were. But, if you are not one of these council people, so just think about a council person in your head, that you've worked with or may respect. And if it isn't one of these, if your council member isn't council members Annie, Burka, Faegre, Jones, Kearns, Overstreet, Snodgrass herself, Solomon, or Steelhammer, if your council member isn't one of those, then your council member voted for
Becky Sepperly as president.
So, I would ask these council members that aren't the ones that I named, do you regret that vote?
Yeah.
Shannon is going above and beyond. If it wasn't for Shannon, the chief hunt situation wouldn't have even been discussed.
That's right.
On the floor.
That's
Other
right.
council members, tried to shut down what she was saying during the talk.
Yeah.
And, she goes above and beyond to not only represent her
Ward, but the
her
entire
ward,
city.
But, doing what's right for
The
the entire
taxpayers.
city at, personal cost to her.
Yes.
Whether it's mental stress or, physical stress. And if you can compare and contrast that to the president of council, who literally is
Does
doing
nothing.
everything
She doesn't-
she can
you're exactly right.
to absolve responsibility.
From
for
doing
what-
anything.
Yeah, for what she's doing. I don't even have words for it.
Well, you did that. You did that very well, and she's a warrior. That's
And
just
you
all I'm
didn't
going to say.
scream at the top of your lungs.
You didn't
Oh, I would
misgender
never-
anybody,
no,
so
well,
congratulations.
I would never do that. I mean, I would feel upset if anyone did feel, that way at the meeting, but you can't just stand up
No,
and scream and
it's just-
shake your fists and shut down debate.
No.
Yeah, but just it was a crazy
All right,
end.
we are wrapping up. And for
break.
our second scoop, we're going to bring some happiness. I mean, not that we're not happy. We're all happy. I love all of this. But we're going to talk Charleston business here with Ty Bullock and Kathy Nutter when we come back.
Brought to you in part by Quinn Computers. With many of us working from home, connectivity is more important than ever. Let Quinn Computers in Spring Hill take care of all your computer challenges. Computer and laptop services, all brands. Network troubleshooting and repair. Wireless network VPN installation and support. Security and firewall installation and support. Backup and recovery service, remote system administration, and more at quintechnology.com.
If you would like to tie your business with this popular podcast, you can contact me, Ron Hughes, to advertise at ron.hughes, ron.hughes, at wvradio.com, or you could call me at 304-342-8131. You're listening to the Scoop Squad Truth Squad, brought to you in part by Quinn Computers in Spring Hill and by Eggplant on Bridge Road.
Reckless big government policies are putting the American dream out of reach. We all know Washington is broken, but it doesn't have to be. Senator Joe Manchin could be part of the solution if he stood up for West Virginia values. Instead, he voted with Joe Biden on the Inflation Reduction Act, which led to higher taxes, trillions in new spending, and tens of thousands of new IRS agents. Tell Joe Manchin, Mountaineers want real, common sense solutions. To learn more, visit prosperityispossible.com. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
You're listening to Squad Truth Pod, a weekly podcast brought to you in part by Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, offering auto, home, life, business insurance with workers' compensation also, as well as pet insurance, which is health insurance for your dogs and cats, covering many special foods, illnesses, surgeries, medications, and they can be found at 16 Capitol Street, 346-9181. Catch them at iigwv.com. Also by Eggplant on Bridge Road, Anything But Ordinary. T-Graphics on the west side, tgraphics.com. By Call Ditto Marketing, keep your brand moving, callditto.com. And also by Americans for Prosperity.
And you're back with a third scoop of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. I've got Kathy Nutter on my left. I've got Ty Bullock on my right. I've got Ron Hughes.
Dead center.
Dead center. Hey, Kathy.
Hello.
Hey, Ty.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
both
Thank
of
you.
you.
Good to be back.
We've got two, I would say, business savvy minds at the mic right now. And I'm going to kind of just follow your lead. Kathy, you and Ty have been friends for a long time, and you are both pretty, I would say, ingrained in the business culture of Charleston. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Got your pulse on the business?
Yes, I closed my business 5 years ago, but I still, I say it just merely afforded me to really observe a lot more, this way. But
so what are you observing?
Well,
what do you see?
Ty this morning, he came on to, I was at our community development meeting at the Charleston Area Alliance, and Ty was our guest. So he did some updating reviews on all his properties and where they were. And I was really, two things I wanted to discuss with him today briefly was one about the effect of the homelessness on business.
Okay.
And the other is one thing I observed that really, really just appalls me is the number of people that will open up a business today. Mm-hmm. And it's probably not just Charleston, it's probably everywhere. They'll open it on a shoestring, just on a whim. And I blame social media for a lot of that. They're here today, gone tomorrow. They don't have any.
Don't do the research. They don't know what it involves.
Don't have any capital. And it's like every time I've opened a business, I have, it's not been taken lightly. There's a lot that goes into it.
Sure.
So it was interesting what, Ty said this morning about there seem to be more homeless people, but, I don't know that the crime is any worse, but he had stated that littering was really bad. And I've observed that too, but not over in Elk City area.
Yeah, it's the littering, but it's also just folks going through trash cans and that's really
dump things out.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be as much of a problem if they would pick it back up and put it back in.
Is it for malice, or that you actually think they're looking for stuff to recycle, reuse, sell?
For anything that they can utilize, and I guess that's understandable to a degree. But I know that it's very frustrating for the businesses and the employees.
Yeah.
I was driving down a street yesterday and just kind of glanced over out of the side of my eye. I saw movement over by a dumpster near a business here in town, and there was like two people diving into it.
Yeah, literally
pulling
diving
stuff.
into it, yeah.
This wasn't like midnight. This was
Right,
like
in the
3
middle
in
of
the
the day.
afternoon. I'd never seen it during the day before. So,
Ty, what do you? I mean, what do you?
just jumping on the opportunity as soon as it comes out.
What do you think what would you like to see happen? I mean, do you think that there's solutions to this?
It's kind of like the age-old question. Homes are like our most important things, right? It's where we keep all of our possessions and where we feel
It's our
safe
biggest
at.
asset.
It's our biggest asset. And so, it goes at the very heart of humanity, and it's been that way ever since we,
The beginning of time, really.
Yeah, ever since we started going in caves and moving our stuff into them.
Right.
So, I think it'd be presumptuous for me to say that I have like some sort of hard and fast rule to help or to alleviate that. But
Were you looking for answers from the Alliance, or what was your point?
I was asked by
guest.
Susie
Okay.
Salisbury to give an update.
Oh,
on,
excellent.
Mostly on, I think it was sort of supposed to be stats focused.
Yeah.
We just closed on a large deal with stats and moving legal aid to
That's
West
the
Virginia.
former
The
Stats
former hospital, right?
Yep. it's
And
about-
you're moving legal aid in there,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, about 35,000 square foot. Signed a 10-year lease with them. We're really excited. That'll
It's
bring.
worth waiting for the right project.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
It's like to be
They
there.
almost
happens.
waited too late, I think.
It took about 8 years to close on that thing, and
I think it was going to fall in if somebody didn't jump
Yeah.
in on it when you did.
I went to bed every night thinking about what I was doing with stats, and I woke up every morning trying to
Sure.
then implement it for about 8 years. And I physically felt when I watched the ink dry on the loan, I could like feel my shoulders. It's a different type of stress now, and that's the
Yeah.
stress I'm used to, construction. But I mean, I guess that's funny that we kind of mentioned that, because I think in some ways things like that, legal aid, can be it's going to be a multifaceted solution to the homeless issues and the addiction crisis that we're experiencing. And I think things like legal aid can be and for example, legal aid they're downtown right now, and and of course I can't speak for legal aid. I'm not. I'm only speaking positively from a private perspective here. But the fact that they're going to have more of a clinical aspect, they're going to be on the ground floor with entrances and onto the ground floor,
Right.
And so be more
accessible and
to the
visible.
community, and so. The west side, or at least 25302 is, which stretches up the Elk a little bit. But if I'm not mistaken, at least I haven't looked at the new census data, but I think it is the highest concentration of people in West Virginia. It's the highest concentration of poverty. It's the highest concentration of African Americans. And so
that zip code
Yeah.
is the highest concentration.
Yes, the zip code itself.
So
which is more or less
where does
the
your
west side.
funding, do you get federal help with that? Like funding, where does your funding come from?
For all my funding came from West Banco.
Okay. Oh, it's
But
personal.
I mean,
Private.
Yeah,
to
private
follow
funding.
up on that, we do use historic tax credits. So
Yes.
we're located in a historic neighborhood, and it's got a statewide, it's got a state recognized designation that piggybacks off a federal designation, and both of those designations in combination allow for the use of historic tax credits to restore
Yes.
old historic buildings that
Yes.
that need that leg up. So yes, in that sense, but in another sense, it's a way of saying, hey, it's usually about a 5-year period that you recoup those taxes. So you have an empty building sitting empty; it's not generating any taxes, at least no income taxes, no FICA, no Social Security, no Medicare, Medicaid, any of that kind of stuff. And then they'll sort of freeze your taxes is one way to look at it. To oversimplify, really, they'll look at it as freezing those taxes for 5 years. That kind of gets the building up and running, and then you've got a real community asset that
Right.
then is a machine for generating taxes. That's a very oversimplified version, but
I need oversimplified when we're talking about tax credits and all that stuff.
Well, Ty always said to me that this is his expertise. He said,
Yeah.
I may not be as good a lawyer as
Finding
I am.
the tax
Excellent
credits
at tax
and-
credits and
I was going to
historical
say,
preservation.
Well, I was going to say, would a
That's even better to me.
Would a regular person be able to, how do you navigate that? Like, I feel like I live in a historic neighborhood, right? I feel like and with the amount of dilapidated and vacant structures on my street, I think sometimes this neighborhood has to be historic. Like, how does one begin to navigate that system to find out about that.
Sure. It's I wear a lot of different hats. My background's in accounting. I work construction. I've worked on historic projects, a lot of historic projects, and I'm a practicing attorney. And but even then,
I didn't know you're an attorney, and boy, I really did insult you tonight, didn't
Yeah,
I?
you just
you should
him,
have
right?
seen my face back there.
Y'all know what I meant, right?
Yes,
No,
he did too.
JB's awesome. I really have a lot of respect for JB.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not, there's another attorney in town that's not.
That's
named
right.
JB.
I know. Sorry.
But also, I have a great team of folks that I work with. Mike Giolis, who specializes in, he used to work at the State Historic Preservation Office, and there's a lot of just good material. So great teams, great materials, and then making a few mistakes along the
Right.
way. And I had an old law professor who said that a red face makes a good teacher, and so
You're right.
I've definitely made some mistakes along the way, and
Well, you
paid
can't
for 'em.
learn if you don't mess up, or if
Exactly.
you don't fail a few times, right?
But also to answer your question, I get these calls from all over the state from
Do
folks
you?
that I like to kind of walk through, because it can seem like Greek, for lack of a better
Right.
analogy.
That's why you have to learn Greek in law school.
Yes,
To get into law.
That's right. So you've helped you've helped some navigate through this process.
Absolutely. I've driven all over the state. It's usually pro bono,
Right.
just because I want to see these downtown. I see people with ideas and with a desire to do something in their communities, but they feel like they're spinning their tires in the mud.
Right.
So I like to. Can anybody out there listening consider me a resource? Reach
Well,
out
I was
to
going
me.
to say, Adam has brought up the fact before about he is a champion for Westmoreland area and Bigley Avenue.
And that's in the same zip code, isn't it? Yeah. 25302.
You want to get on the mic real quick?
No.
Okay. Anyway,
He's done.
yeah, but he feels like I do. We feel like we live in historic places as
But
well.
that
like-
zip code seems like it gets put upon because now you're going to have that needle exchange program over there.
Right. Very.
that-
What do you
in
think
that
about
neighborhood,
Ty?
up the
What do you
street.
think about that, Ty?
Up the street
That's
from
going to
your
affect you.
business.
That is right down the road from your business.
I was approached by, I believe her name is Katie, very nice lady that works at the Women's Health Center, and I really respected her coming and asking for a meeting and creating a bridge for discussion. I truly appreciated
Yeah.
that. I'm still educating myself on it. My understanding is that it will be very different than the was it SOARS was the one that
That was
Yeah.
a illegal syringe service program.
I think we talked a little bit about
We did
it
a little
last
bit.
time I was here, and that was one of the worst summers that I've ever experienced in terms of thefts. And I had my car stolen that summer, and my sister had her car stolen. We had to shut down job sites because needles were. They were.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. It was. I'm not going to say everywhere because that would be exaggerating, but it's somewhere right below that.
No, I remember that. I remember thinking to myself, "What is going on?" Like,
Yeah.
Me too.
It was, and then when I found the news broke that they had been operating in a syringe service program, I'm like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
what's going on."
And they tried to keep that under the radar.
Well, the city did not. The city issued what do you call that? A citation or whatever, and then
Well, that
Kevin.
was when Danny Jones was mayor.
No,
Wasn't it?
no.
No?
This is during the Goodwin administration, and Kevin Baker snatched it from the police and said that's not enforceable.
Oh, I see.
The ordinance is not enforceable. Therefore, he didn't let the case go before the judge or the magistrate and let the judge decide if it was,
Well, I
an
remember when Danny
enforceable offense.
Jones was mayor, he basically shut that down.
Yes, he'd shut down the health department. This was under Mayor Goodwin.
Was it health department or health right?
No, that was health department.
Health department, okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I had it right.
Kathy, anything you got?
Yes.
What you got for me?
Another thing Ty said this morning was that Gonzo Burger had announced their closure, and I was not surprised. I like Dave Hayden. I like Dave Thomas.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like
not surprised at
everybody
that.
that's in there, but one thing Frank Gonzalez was great at with Mika Sina and Gonzo Burger and creating those is social media presence.
Yeah.
And,
And other advertising.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's very lackluster. And I don't know. I hate to see people that don't,
Promote.
I feel
promote
like
their business.
I feel
and
like
you are your business. You have to promote yourself.
Well, have you
inside
heard
your
of?
business.
Yes, we're going to wrap up in just a second. Have you heard of McMulligan's up on?
Yeah,
Bridge.
great spot from when I've been up there, and nice
up in
staff.
the
and-
Bridge Road, right?
Yeah,
Is it still
They
open?
closing?
I know, not that I know. I just feel like it's not.
Now the rumors started.
I'm just.
I never hear anything about it.
Yeah, because I've been in there maybe
There's
twice,
so many
and it's
people that think they
know,
they
I
think
just
they
feel
know
like-
what they're doing with social media, and because it's my business,
Yeah.
you know, I see where they think that it's working for them,
Right.
But most of them think they're effectively advertising themselves or marketing themselves via social media, but at most, usually, they're only getting about 9% of their
Yeah.
followers.
I just feel like
And
they
without a
need to
campaign,
advertise.
It's not expensive, but you know there are those of us that could help small businesses
Right.
get that message.
Well, and there's
out.
a new one up there opening, a new bar, restaurant bar. But yeah, I worry about that McMulligan's. I've been in there maybe twice,
Have
and there's
them call
nobody
me.
in there.
I'll fix them up.
I think
Well, I realize there's only so many pieces of the pie, and our
Yeah.
population keeps dropping, and so there's only so much.
I just expected something different out of that place. I expected like a true Irish pub, you know, where the young people up there could go and kind of hang out. And it just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that you know, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I respect anybody and everybody who at least
100%. Yeah.
analyzes taking those steps, and
Yeah.
and there's all
It's a
kinds
huge
of,
risk.
There's all kinds of resources out there too. I learned about some
Tons.
today at the Alliance meeting.
So
I
people should
learned
go
about
to
a
the
couple of them.
to the Alliance meetings then. Maybe.
And even go by the SBA office; it's in their building as well. And
Yep.
I mean, there's so many
exactly.
things. A lot of people that open a business don't even know what a business plan is.
Right.
Well, you're doomed if you don't know
Yeah.
that.
Right. Well, will you come back?
Yeah, anytime. Give
Come
me
back and talk. Like we can dive a little bit further into this.
Yeah,
Because
I'd
I
love
would-
to.
I would
You-
love to.
You might have to get
Right.
me to stop talking. So
Yeah.
I like
Well, that's
listening
good.
to you talk.
It's what's
I
called
learn a
radio.
lot. Just like I
that's how
do
we-
when JB talks.
Right. We
I
can't
listen to
always
all
be
you smart
talking about
lawyers.
controversial things. We talk about things that can fix the
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah. And so that's right. We want to bring information.
Kathy Hess-Krause to come back as
Yes.
well,
Yes.
especially during the legislative
That's right.
session.
Kathy, will you come back?
Because I
Awesome.
don't think we're allowed to go up there.
Well, we're
You
not
and I
allowed to
are.
go to City Hall, but we are allowed to go to legislature. Okay, we got to wrap it up because Ryan's giving me the finger in there. Not that finger, the twirly one that
It's
says to
called
wrap
the
it up.
wrap-up finger.
All right,
Yeah.
Charleston, we will talk at you next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Rebroadcast, retransmission, or transcription is not permissible without the expressed approval of Scoop Squad Truth Squad. Copyright 2023. The opinions on Scoop Squad Truth Squad are those of the hosts and the guests, and not those of WVRC Media. Copyright 2023.
Reckless big government policies are putting the American dream out of reach. We all know Washington is broken, but it doesn't have to be. Senator Joe Manchin could be part of the solution if he stood up for West Virginia values. Instead, he voted with Joe Biden on the Inflation Reduction Act, which led to higher taxes, trillions in new spending, and tens of thousands of new IRS agents. Tell Joe Manchin, Mountaineers want real, common sense solutions. To learn more, visit prosperityispossible.com. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.